Now, what was the first death metal that you heard? What do you remember the time you heard
First
something that
metal,
extreme?
Yeah, this same cousin, he was always into death metal. So he was really early with Napalm and those bands. And he knows this way better than me. I really got into it when I heard. I think it could have been Morbid Angel or Napalm Death. I really got into it because of the technical aspect, and not the technical aspect, like the musicianship.
Okay.
It was they were using the instruments in a total different way. You know, the drummer wasn't just keeping the beat; he was playing a fucking solo all the time.
Yeah.
With kick drums.
So the precision.
Yeah, and it was a very different approach. But there's a few bands that I've listened to since then, like Gorguts, Napalm, Malevolent Creation is one of my favorites. Death, obviously, from Human and on, I'm the biggest fan. So it was a few of those, but those are all a little bit more technical. Yeah, not so.
Yeah.
I mean, Napalm is perhaps a little bit more towards the punk, but all these bands, they recorded in Morrisound in Tampa.
Yeah.
So, and when I figured that out, I could just go to a store and see where they recorded, or if Scott Burns recorded it, and then I knew it's going to be an excellent death metal album.
Wow.
So that was a cool thing to figure that out later on.
Amazing. And what was the process like of trying to combine, you know, a melodic hard rock, you know, guitar, or a death metal attitude? What was the process like to try and meld it?
I think that it's always been, when I joined In Flames almost 20 years now ago, melody was central. It was what we did, you know, what they did before. It was hyper melodic, but it was also at the same time had roots in the death metal, because it was fast paced. It was riffing, and it wasn't pop music, to put it like that. And so that environment fit me perfectly when I came in there, because I had the same things already bouncing around in my head, and it was super easy working with Glenn and Jesper with ideas, and you know, so yeah. I never thought about it. I thought if you're gonna have death metal, it's gonna be melodic. It's like a natural way I think it should be.
Yeah. And did you have any idea back then that 20 years later you would still be in the band?
No, I knew that I didn't want to do anything else. I mean, I went to school as an electrician. I haven't worked a single day.
Yeah.
That's it. But the reason why I went there is because the people I was playing music with went to that school, and they're like a couple of years older than me. But it was for us to hang out, you know. So, yeah, that's the only thing I ever wanted to do.
Sure.
Yeah, and thank God I'm able to do it.
Yeah. Beats construction, you know.
I think it does. I've done a lot of that stuff too, but that's because I can do it, not because I have to do it.
Yeah, that's good. Now tell us about the inner workings of the band that really, you know, creates such a dynamic. You know, what is it about the members and how you play or write or perform together that really makes the magic?
That's something you kind of distill, I think. Every band that's out touring, they have their own sound. You know, they have had time to develop it, and it doesn't matter if I use the same amplifier and guitar and pickups, strings, picks as another guitar player, because I'm not going to sound like him anyways. You know, so it's in the fingers. Same with the drummer. You can use the same drum kit as that dude, but you're not going to sound the same. So bands develop this after a while, and I think that we've done that too. It took us a couple of albums, but we developed a distinct sound, I would say, that we try to alter all the time a little bit, because we want to be challenged. We want to, you know, want to have fun with it. You know?
Yeah.
So, but I think most bands do the same thing. They have their sound, and it just happens. You can't. Yeah. There's a reason why you call it a cover band. You know, it's not the band; it's a cover band.
Yeah.
You know, it's because that band will never sound the same as the original. And I think, again, all bands that I listen to, they are doing the same thing. You know, they have their sound. They developed it over years, and they recorded. They went on tour. They learned from that, and bring whatever they vibe and emotions they get from the touring and hanging out with other bands is what they bring into the next record. And you know, it's an organic thing.
Sure, sure. Well, I know it was a great honor to be chosen as the best international band at the Golden Gods.
Yeah.
And what is it like to have this life, to be able to tour around the world and, you know, see people from all different walks of life, and, you know, what's the common ground, you know, with the music?
Nowadays it's easier. I think with the internet, I can play here in the US, or we can play in Japan, or we can play in Sweden, and the audience is pretty much reacting in the same way. But 15 years ago it was very different. You went to Japan and it was a totally different environment. You know, they were dead silent when Anders was talking on the mic, because they wanted to hear everything, and they're super polite. Yeah. So they were really quiet. So Anders was like, "Is this on?" You know, in between songs. But then, as soon as you start playing, they started jumping and being into it. And if you go to South America or Southern Europe, they chant football chants, and you know, it's like, yeah, it's like being at a football game or something. They're very passionate. So nowadays, this is all a little bit, in my opinion, and the way I've seen it, it's a little
kind of growing together.
Yeah, a little bit like that. And it's pretty cool actually. Because you feel comfortable and welcome wherever you go now.
Sure. Internet's kind of brought everybody together.
Yeah.
Now let's talk a little bit about festivals, because I know over in Europe and Scandinavia, you know, a lot of festivals. You know, we're starting to grow some here. But what is it? Do you have to prepare differently, or is it the same performance? But, you know, talk about the environment, some of the highlights, some of the greatest festivals you played.
I think compared to a club show or a venue like this, there's you know, good and bad things with both a club show and a festival show. Yeah. The drawbacks on a festival show is that you're very, very far away from the audience most of the time, and that kind of lose a little bit of the connection that you want to have. But at the same time, you most of the time reach a lot more people than you would on your own club show. And you can also, since it's usually a huge stage, you can put an awesome production up there. You can use pyro in a totally different way. So that's the thing with that. The club shows, you get really close. You can feel the sweat, you know, everything. And that energy is really tight, and it gives you energy.
Look into the eyes.
Yeah, you know, and you can see when if they like something, or if they don't like something, or if they get surprised, or if there's something they hear for the first time.
More immediate reaction.
Yeah, totally. And yeah, I like that connection too. So that's the good thing. But then again, you're more confined. Yeah. And like a show like today, space on stage is very limited. So and that's a drawback too. But in the end, if you get that connection, you know, then it doesn't really matter where you play.
Now, what are some of the highlights, some of the biggest festivals, or some of the bands you played with that really you remember?
Yeah, well, we've done this for quite a while, and we've been very fortunate to play some of the biggest festivals there. You can, I mean, in Europe at least, you do the Wacken Festival. It's a fantastic arrangement. But they've been doing this since maybe '97, or maybe a couple of years before that. Yeah, and that's just an excellent experience. 85,000 people or whatever, just jumping around to your music, and that's fantastic. We played shows with Maiden, Metallica, Slayer. Absolutely fantastic. That's the cool thing with festivals in Europe, because they're not necessarily just a metal fest or just a pop fest or alternative. They can mix it up. Yeah,
something like Download.
Rock and Ring Rocking Park, for instance. That's you get anything from Green Day to death metal bands to almost pop acts, and you know. So, and that's a cool thing, you know.
So you suggest people should open their mind and listen to different types of music?
The thing is, music is it's a taste thing, right? And it's actually a freedom you have. You choose what you like. I mean, you don't need to listen to something that somebody's force feeding you. I mean, just turn off the radio or listen to the records that you want to hear. But I'm very conservative myself, to be honest. But if you go to one of these festivals, like Rock and Ring Rocking Park, for instance, you have to be a bit more open-minded, because there will be a lot of alternatives to whatever it is you're into. So, and that's a cool thing. I haven't seen that many over here in the US, but I know you guys are coming up with some pretty kick-ass festivals, right?
Yeah, they're coming out.
And that's a good thing, because it's a good environment. Not only the touring festivals like Ozfest or Gigantor or something like that. Those can be really good for bands as well, but they're rarely good for the audience. Festivals in Europe have been very good for the audience, because it is made by audience for the audience, and bands get to play there. You know, so it's been a little bit opposite.
Sure.
Yeah, but we've done some really cool stuff here. We did Rock on the Range. That was really cool to do. And we're coming up with some next year here now as well. So
fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, talk about the latest record. What you're most proud of achieving, and can you talk at all about the hack site, the whole, you know, the concept behind that?
Well, first the record is, like I said, I think I mentioned it before, that we don't really write on the road. So what we do is, when we go after a touring cycle, you take all the experiences and everything, and whatever you did on the last album, you take that into consideration when you start writing the new one. And the stuff you wanted to change, or the stuff you think that you could improve, you want to do those changes. But you also want to challenge yourself a little bit. So having said that, we did songs like Everything Is Gone, which is a very, very heavy song, and then we have songs like With Eyes Wide Open, which is a ballad, our first proper power ballad kind of thing. And having those fit on the same record is something I'm very proud of, because they come from almost two different worlds, but they meet, you know, somewhere underneath this wing or umbrella, whatever you want to call it. It's really cool to have them fit on the same record. And that's something I'm extremely proud of. And the songs, of course, they're fresh, they're fun to play, they sound good. And
what advice do you give to that young band, a young player that wants to be doing what you do? What do they need to concentrate on?
Oh, playing every live show you can. That is my best advice, I think. Well, from my opinion, my experience, it's been the most rewarding, because then you get not judged, but you get you learn your weaknesses very fast when you're on stage, and that helps you focus what you should practice on when you're in the rehearsal space. Also, you can be Yngwie Malmsteen in a rehearsal space, but if you don't show that to other people on the stage, nobody will know. You know, and that's a sad thing, you know. So I think playing live is the most important thing. I know this is a hard thing too, because not all venues allow any band to play. So it's a hard thing to do, but whatever chance you get to play live, you should do it. No matter what the conditions are.
And as far as the business goes, I know it's turned into more of an independent, more of an entrepreneurial business. How important it is for the musicians to at least know something about the business, so they're less vulnerable.
You have to. I mean, you have to today have at least a basic knowledge of how things work, because you want to do this full time. You can't do this like you work 9 to 5, 5 days a week, and then you're in a band. I mean, that's recreational purposes. You go there and have fun, hobby. But if you really want to do it, you can't really have a steady job. And that means you need to be aware of things in the business.
You need to excel.
It's not the fun thing. It's actually the absolute most boring thing in the world, but it's absolutely necessary. So you can actually afford being in a band.